All right, we are live. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Nagy on Sports. Phil Nagy, Kit Nagy joining you for this early morning edition, depending on where you're at, or later in the day if you're in the UK watching, or even further. But we are super pumped to be here. We got to need to unpack this game because you know what? We're not done playing football. As Belichick would say, we're on to Kansas City. Just like we all thought. What a game that was. So we'll break it down quickly for you here, but let's go ahead and start, Kit, with those offensive keys. How many of those did we hit on to help get this W?
Well, you're going to find a pretty common trend here for hitting on keys in this game, which is why I think we're all happy to have slain the dragon in Heinz Field, get our playoff win, huge win for the Browns. I think Browns fans everywhere are still reveling in that experience. It was really something. So starting on the offense, mitigating the loss of Batonio, game planning for Hayward. First of all, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Michael Dunn. What a game that guy had!
Legend.
Just unbelievable in relief of Batonio. For those who follow PFF ratings, Michael Dunn was rated at an 82.4 in run blocking and a 63.1 in pass blocking. If you kind of know, 70 is your cutoff for starter, so he's not too far off of the starter mark for his pass blocking, which is pretty good for a dude who is effectively like a fourth, fifth string, guard for you coming into the season. With some of the other guys being out with your swing tackle who would have taken that out in Hubbard, and then behind him with Nick Harris. So really he's not your first choice, obviously. And he's pass blocking almost at a starter level, but 85 is the cutoff for Pro Bowl. So he's almost effectively run blocking almost at a Pro Bowl level, which is just unreal. Unreal that he was able to pull that out. And then of course we then have the oh no moment when he goes down. We're like, now who's going to play? Dude comes off the street, nobody's ever heard of. I typically keep a pretty tight watch on who's on the practice squad. Guys that are getting signed. Sometimes they slip through the cracks and I miss guys. And this was one of those guys. I had no idea who Blake Hance was.
Yeah,
I'm sure most Browns fans had no idea who Blake Hance was going into this game because sure enough, here out trots 62, and we're all like, who the heck is that?
Yeah.
Somebody we don't recognize, a name we don't know, comes out, has had the playbook for a single week. Now, after the fact, I found out he had worked with Callahan in Washington, which is why many of the play calls and such were familiar to him, easier for him to pick up that playbook. But still, that's a huge ask for a guy to come out and not have met any of his line coaches because all of them were out, not having met his head coach because he was out. And having just met his quarterback for the first time in the locker room before the game kicks off is just absolutely insane. And he comes out there and puts a 79.2 pass blocking rating out there now he was not so great in the run blocking, but I mean, like a 79.2, that's again above your starter mark, very comfortably in the starter mark from a guy that nobody's ever heard of, which is just unreal. Doesn't allow a pressure or a hit, or doesn't allow a sack. I mean, it's just like that's crazy. Now he only had 14 snaps on offense, but still, that's going up against Hayward.
So, right.
That's a vaunted defensive line that was completely ineffective. I would say more than anything, we didn't just mitigate the loss of Batonio and gameplay. We didn't have to. I mean, we were running behind those guys. Those guys just stepped up in the biggest way, and unreal what they were able to put out on the field. Just that is what the culture brings here, where you set the standard, what you expect. Anybody who comes up out on that field, this is what we expect of you. And Kevin Stefanski's leadership and that culture has brought that. This team is bought in. Guys that just showed up from the Jets practice squad, a week prior is showing up and getting clutch minutes in a playoff game and looking like they're part of the culture already. I mean, it's unbelievable what's happening. So that is not what we Browns fans are used to. Guys stepping up in that position, and you automatically groan and assume the worst, because that we've had 25 years of that, where it's been the guy stepping in is just not ready to go and just gets eaten alive in these kind of games. And no, that's not at all what happened. Twice, two different guys, and really showed up. One of the best offensive line performances I've seen in a long time. Just all around. All those guys were just unbelievably good.
Did you see that? Did you see that video that Michael Dunn's girlfriend took of him like doing his sets in the parking lot of like their apartment complex?
No, I missed that. That's
like he's just like down in his stance. He's like doing everything. Like you can tell. I would be willing to bet that Callahan was on the other end of a Zoom, and they were like, "All right, here we go. I gotta get you ready, but I can't meet you or look at you." Like, just totally blown away. It's like, we didn't even get to make the key because we rendered the key unnecessary because he played at such a high level.
Right. Yeah, no, that's you're absolutely right. That's been the story of this whole season. I mean, the Browns, more than many teams, not that it hasn't happened to a lot of other teams where the Browns have been, their facility has been shut down a lot. They have missed a lot of practices. They haven't been making that excuse. They don't care. They're like, we'll get it done on Zoom practice. We'll get it done in our mental reps. We'll get it done how we have to. And that's what Kevin Stefanski brings from the get go. He's like, we're gonna have to rise to the adversity. We're gonna have to be the best, COVID team, because that's who's gonna win. So we're going to make a point of it, and they did, and that's that's where Baker Mayfield's going into this game talking about not having thrown a ball, and hey, we're going to get it done. It's not going to matter, so which is great. That's exactly what you want to see. So on to the next key, situational football. I thought they did a really nice job with situational football. There was really only one place where I felt the kind of situational football piece was. I'm not entirely sure that it would have gone that way if Stefanski was there, which was that one challenge on the completion. At real time, I wasn't sure that it didn't hit the ground. But then again, whether Stefanski pulls the trigger for throwing that flag or not, especially after a quick look to see that he actually had his hands underneath it, there wasn't really any question that it was a completed pass. Pretty easy review for the refs on that one. So I think that may have been the only place where maybe we saw a bit of the situational football. Otherwise it was like Stefanski was there, and I mean, it's just like you didn't see the difference. Same thing into the next key, that rhythm of the play calls. My goodness, huge shout out to AVP. What a game he called. That was among the best we've seen all season long. It was no different than anything we've ever seen from Stefanski. And I think the key point here being that that really clutch late touchdown from Nick Chubb on that screen pass. They had not really thrown a lot of screen passes. He had it in his hip pocket, ready to go. And really, they AVP in some ways almost called a better game than Stefanski, in that he was a little bit more diverse with his use of the running backs, particularly throwing the ball to Hunt, to Chubb, which was really effective. Throwing the ball to Chubb in this game was just tearing that defense apart, because they were expecting Hunt's in, so he's going to get the ball kind of thing on a pass. And then, so they're not expecting that when Chubb's in the game, and then you see these swing passes and these wheel routes coming out of the backfield, and Chubb is just like tearing them apart on these routes, because once he gets out in space, man, that guy is just so hard to bring down. And for a big guy, he's elusive. I mean, he's got an incredible ability to be elusive. We saw that up the sideline where he does that little stutter step and then goes inside instead of out, and just jukes a defender out of his shorts, goes another maybe 10 yards, because that's, that's what he brings to you. But AVP called a game, man. That was impressive. It was defying tendency. and was out there calling a game that the Steelers were just not ready for. They were not able to slow us down, other than a little bit in the third quarter where we had like maybe three drives, I think, where we kind of sputtered a bit. But once we found our legging again, and I like the fact that we really didn't step off the gas. We've been asking for that. We needed that in this game because they did come back and bring it back to 12. So we really didn't step off the gas in this game in the offense. They called a good aggressive game pretty much throughout. Didn't work as much in the third quarter for a couple of reasons, where the defense got the better of us in some spots, and especially I think we had an off day from Higgy in this one. A couple of clutch drops that really kind of hurt us in that third quarter there. But yeah, that was a well called game. And the rhythm was absolutely there. Just a little bit of sputtering outside of it, but very aggressive late, which I really liked. The last key, punched the defense in the mouth early, rushed to open up the playbook and control the clock. Yeah, man, did we punch them in the mouth. That was for the first snap aside. And yes, we had good field position because our defense was really getting it done with the turnovers, but all game long, we were taking it to the Steelers. That first quarter, 28-0. The fact that we got started with that high snap aside, because that's money. I don't take that away. That's awesome. But the offense really didn't do anything to make that happen. But the fact that we took advantage, the first drive, a turnover, short field, capitalized touchdown. Second drive was a punt. Good defense forces a punt, and we drive the field, touchdown. Third, and every drive, like, didn't matter where we started on the field, didn't matter what the situation was, and that's how we end up 28-0 in the best quarter of Browns football, I think, that may have ever been played. It was unreal how effective we were out there, and in a playoff game, and the Browns showed up. Steelers, especially the guys that rested, those guys all just were off. Marquise Pouncey, even outside of that one snap, he was off. You saw Larry Ogunjobi, bull rush him for like 4 yards into the backfield to knock him into Derek Watt, and shut them down on a third and short rush that they had to have. That was Marquise Pouncey just getting, who's a Pro Bowl center, just getting knocked way backwards, just getting blown up off the line. So we saw
he announced his retirement after the game, right? He was like, "That's it, I'm done."
Yeah, well, I don't know if he officially announced it or not. I may have missed it, but I would not be surprised to see both he and Ben done after this. That you could see that they were. Nathan Zegura was talking about them being out on the after the game, after the camera stopped rolling. They were still a good 15 minutes just sitting on the bench. Just in that glazed, shocked look of, reflecting on everything that's happened and the season and all the memories in that stadium. I think they're both done. Now we'll see. There's always the chance that they go the Brett Favre route where they think they're done, and then later they decide, oh well, maybe we'll try one more time. There are 41, 42 million reasons to come back, especially for Ben. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
So, yeah, absolutely. On that last key, though, we definitely punched him in the mouth, and we did it all day, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. So that's the offense.
That was just the offense?
That was just the offense, yeah. So we haven't even gotten to the defense keys.
All right, well, let's file through these. We got a lot of people with some questions and things, and I want to get to, but most of them are about what to do with Kansas City. So I'm trying to tell them to wait. We'll do our pregame video on them later, but let's keep wrapping it up. What about the defensive keys? All
right, so the defensive keys, tackling. We actually saw some really good tackling in this game. I was really happy with that. A couple early, Taki missed a tackle that we really kind of needed him to make. That would have been a tackle for loss. There was just a handful others, though. For the most part, the shorter pass stuff, the tackling was pretty solid. So I'll give them credit for that. And we really made, forced Pittsburgh to take long, even when they were getting back into the game, they were having to go work for it down the field. And a lot of dinking and dunking to get down the field. And that bend but don't break, which is the next key, absolutely worked because they had to chew up so much clock getting down there. They weren't having chunk plays. and they weren't able to score quickly, which really was hurting them, because then our offense was, once we got back into the mode late in the third and into the fourth, we were just really, really clicking again on offense, and they were not going to keep up. Then the next key is that play the physical, punishing defense. Absolutely, we're punching them in the mouth on defense too. And shutting down their rush yardage. They only had 52 yards on the game. Now, part of that is because they were so far behind, but 52 yards, that is shutting down a run offense. Their rush game was completely gone. And not that it had been good going into this game, and yes, they were behind, so they couldn't afford to rush a lot, but they were just ineffective on the rush all day. So we did a good job there too. Give them that credit.
For sure. Was that defense?
Yeah, that's defense.
Okay,
so I'll roll into special teams. Yeah. So on the special teams side, definitely huge props to Parkey. No points left on the field. 100% of 100% of the kicks in a playoff. Yes, no wins. So which you kind of expect in those kind of situations. So we're fortunate for him there, but still, I mean, those are all pressure kicks. Every single one of them, got to have them, and he got them all. So absolute credit there. So the next one, we did have a special teams penalty, but it was minor. It only had a minor effect, just 5 yards added to the end of a run, kind of a deal. It did lead to a field goal, but I'm actually going to give them credit for this, because of their Pittsburgh coming out and punting. There's a lot of talk about why that was a bad plan, and why are they trying to use the special teams unit with emotions to get us to jump off line. But the discipline not to jump off line, especially for the fact that Preef is out there as the head coach. He better not jump off line. He'd have been pissed in that situation if they give up that 4th and 1, 4th and 2, or whatever it was, going into the fourth quarter on a jumping offsides. He'd have been so mad. So kudos to them for not jumping. That ended up being a super pivotal moment in the game, and their discipline to stay where they are and not get drawn offside in that spot was massive. And really, because that was really the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back, if you will, for the momentum of the Steelers. Once they punch it back to us and we go down 80 yards and that was 6 plays, I believe, 5 passes, 1 run, and we just stuck it to the Steelers, and it was capped with that 40-yard screen pass on 2nd and 10 to Chubb that just was a thing of beauty, and such beautifully timed call, like we talked about from AVP. So that was clutch for the special teams there. And then the last one, winning this field position battle. Scottish Hammer had two punts that ended up inside of the 20 out of his 5. He was averaging 40 yards. He did a pretty nice job of flipping field position and pinning them back a couple times and forcing them into that, having to dink and dunk their way down the field and chew tons of clock on their own that we didn't have to chew for them. So I think we did a really nice job in special teams as well.
And I think it was the best returns we've seen from DeErnest on kickoffs.
And that was huge,
well past the 25, 30 on just about every kick, which is huge. We never
absolutely
start way back.
And that was definitely a big part of the special teams field position battle was, DeErnest had a game on the return. I mean, it was really nice, well blocked, and got some really nice returns. A couple that were really close to actually breaking for a full up for a touchdown. One or two missed tackles or broken tackles, and he was gone. So he very close to that. But it was excellent all around on that front.
Great. All right. Well, and overall, we obviously got the W. How many did we hit on?
So winning the turnover battle, boy, did we. +5. Team, I believe, came into this game at +10 overall in the season. So upper echelons of the NFL. They were very good at taking the ball away and did not give the ball away very much. And we ended up just blanking them. We didn't turn the ball over, and they had 5 turnovers, including 4 Roethlisberger picks. Such an opportunistic day for the defense. Defense was just making hay out there. And in fact, they probably could have could have come theoretically. I mean, Money Mitch dropped one. There was a couple other spots where there probably could have had interceptions in this game. We could have had, 6, 7 picks on Roethlisberger if we had caught them all. Just crazy. And the fact that we come away with 5, and that Taki pick, by the way, that's an impressive pick. Now he knows the pass is coming, but he got in a really nice position. Taki has come so far because he was not making that play last year. There's no way he makes that play last year. He was not great in coverage. He was not great at dropping back into zones before. He was great at run defense, and he's known for his run defense, going sideline to sideline, making good tackles, but he was never known for his pass coverage. And that was just an athletic play, getting out into in a good zone position, seeing the ball come, and just what a catch. Wow. Very impressive from Taki on that interception, and really doing the same thing that Minka kind of did to Baker in almost like that robber roll kind of underneath, where he just Ben didn't see him and tries to put a pass in right over his head, and Taki's like, thanks, I'll take that. And it was beautiful. So going into halftime with the lead, absolutely, we were 35-10 at the half. That was massive. We hit the 2 things that we are now 11-0 this season. The other one that Nathan Zagura likes to talk about is the when Baker's over 100 on his quarterback rating. His QBR is over 100. We are now 15-0. He was a QBR 115, which was huge because Baker was just. He was so dynamic and so on point. In fact, should have been better if it weren't for drops from Higgy. Really, Higgy was the one that was having trouble, and a couple from Hooper. The one touchdown that he absolutely should have caught. I don't know why Higgy was off, but even without him, he did have the 2 catches, but I think he had something like 7 targets, and he was struggling. He just didn't have the best game. And then the old win one for the Gipper. Absolutely. It was like those guys weren't there. Or excuse me, it was like those guys were there. The other way around. But it didn't matter. Stefanski got to see a beautiful game play out in his basement. And Bitonio gets to play in his hopefully is activated tomorrow. Did get Ward back, but hopefully Bitonio comes back tomorrow, gets to play in his first playoff game, which is huge. And that's what this one was all about. Getting those guys their first experience in a playoff game and getting the monkey off our back to win in Pittsburgh and in a playoff game and first in 25 years and all that stuff. It was just beautiful.
It was awesome. Absolutely. It was awesome. And it didn't even feel real. A lot of people are like, I must have died. Like, this is right. I'm in heaven now. This isn't
right. Or even more crazy. If you think about the fact that the back when we were winning playoff games, they were all home games because we were winning the AFC North, or really the AFC Central back then. We were consistently winning the AFC Central, so we were playing those in the old Municipal Stadium. We were not playing those on the road and winning those. So this was our first road playoff victory since 1969. 51 years since we had won on the road in the playoffs. That's, just crazy.
Yeah, and it's 150 of their friends or whatever were in the stadium, so it wasn't a true road kind of atmosphere, which will also be a big help when we get to KC. Known for being super loud and stuff. They'll only be able to have their 10,000 or whatever they've been doing there. So
I think they're one of the higher numbers actually. They get something closer to 15 or 16,000. So
gotcha.
they're
a little louder than it was. Louder than it was last week. So
they'll have a little bit more than even First Energy does. So there'll be an environment there. I don't think it's above the threshold that you start to worry about the noise too much affecting the offense, but it's going to be different. We won't have the advantage of being able to hear all the calls kind of thing like you got in the empty stadiums.
For sure. All right. Well, awesome. So thanks. We had 10 people watching, a bunch of people commenting on it. Appreciate everybody being on. A lot of the regulars, Graham and Demarion and Keith and Kevin and Karen and all of our other K names. But so NJ popped on at the end as well. So we're super pumped about it. I got a lot of questions there about the KC game, so we'll go ahead and table those until we get to our pregame video. We'll do the sim on probably Friday as well, and then pregame it on Saturday. If I have time, I've actually had a request from some fans and friends of the channel to simulate all of the playoff games for the weekend. So we'll see if I have time. I could definitely sim them. I don't know if I can sim them and do all the commentary, but I'll try because it'd be kind of fun just to see what Madden thinks. So if I can carve out some time here in the next couple of days, I might do some of those other games as well. Could be kind of fun. So
well, there are getting to be fewer of them, so that that does help, and there are some interesting matchups actually in this particular playoffs. It's a very interesting field all around. I mean, you got teams that haven't done it in a long time all together. Browns, Bills, and Tampa Bay. Teams.
If there was a Browns Bills AFC Championship game, that
well, unbelievable. We are set up in a position where we could see something just absolutely crazy happen here, where we could see, if we get through the Chiefs, we could see a Browns Bills AFC Championship, and if the Browns win that, you could see, or if the Bills win that, either way, you could see a Bills Bucks Super Bowl or a Browns Bucks Super Bowl, which would just be, I mean, talk about storylines. That's especially with Tom Brady playing in another Super Bowl, but for a team that hasn't been to the Super Bowl since the early 90s.
Yeah, pretty wild for sure. Pretty wild. All right, so we really appreciate it. Thanks, obviously, to all of our subscribers and everybody who popped on live today and folks who are going to watch it later. We very appreciative of you, and man, it just feels surreal. I don't know, just like keep pinching myself repeatedly over what's happening with this team right now. And again, to think they're still ahead of schedule, like there is a better football team probably next year than there is right now. When you give another draft and another offseason to Barry, and obviously you can't predict injuries. You know, nobody would have thought that OBJ would have torn his ACL or Delpit would rip his Achilles or something like that. So things happen. I get that. But in theory, they're only going to keep getting better, which is crazy. So that's, I mean, you and I have said for a while, like let's pull out the John Gruden contract and just give Stefanski and Barry 10 years and just be like, cool, we'll talk again in a decade. Let's see how much we can do. Like, and with Bill Callahan too, let's lock him into that deal. Let's not let him go anywhere. So, but we'll see. And again, if you remember the very first time we simmed this season over the summer, Browns Buccaneers in that Super Bowl. I mean, it's theoretically possible. So we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. Obviously, Kansas City's a great team. We'll talk about that later this week. But I don't think they're unbeatable. So we'll unpack what that looks like, and Kid will have great keys for us, as he always does. So we really appreciate it. We'll get out of here the way that we always do, by saying, Go Browns!